This video is sponsored by Professional Photographers of America, which has a community of over 31,000 photographers and videographers that includes equipment insurance, education, and business tools made specifically for small business owners and creatives like you. Let's go. Today I'm going to be showing you guys something that I was sent by another creator, which I think is super amazing, especially if you're a photographer and want to start editing videos on Final Cut Pro 10. This little tool might make your life a little bit easier. Before I get to the plugin, I'm just going to snap a few photos and capture a few clips outside so that we can use that in the example later, so I can show you guys how that new plugin works. And today we'll be using my Sony a7S III, which is still my main go-to camera. So videography and photography are similar in a way, but still very, very different. I know the camera might be the same, the settings that we use on the camera are similar, but for myself, when I do photography, it just feels like I'm in a whole new world. The workflow and planning is just much different. A lot of the tools that we use are different as well. So say for a wedding shoot, a photographer will probably need their flash, but a videographer like myself, I would bring my gimbal, maybe a slider to get some more unique moving shots. It's just different, even though a lot of people that I've met think that it's the same thing. Before showing you guys how this new plugin works, I want to show you guys a tool that I stumbled upon a couple months ago, and it's already helped sharpen my skill as a creator. It's called PPA, Professional Photographers of America. So for a low monthly price, you receive a variety of benefits, which includes $15,000 worth of equipment insurance, customizable contracts, hundreds of educational videos, and so much more. So for myself, just being able to customize documents, including proposals, cancellation letters, it'll definitely help me out a lot with my business going forward and save me a lot of time. Also, flat deductibles are now included in the PhotoCare equipment insurance, so you'll get the full replacement coverage with a flat $350 deductible. So make sure to check it out, and if you guys decide to become a member, click on the link in the description so that you get $25 off your membership. So Eric Lenz is a photographer that reached out to me a few weeks back, sent me over this new plugin that he created called Lightroom Controls for Final Cut Pro 10. So it's a plugin that brings all the sliders from Lightroom into Final Cut. So this is amazing, especially for photographers who want to start editing on Final Cut Pro 10. Even if you haven't used Lightroom before, it'll just make the color correcting and color grading process so much easier to do in Final Cut. It's just the way that Lightroom has their sliders set up. It just makes it so much easier to navigate, and it's a lot easier to understand the interface and what each controls do. And that's good, especially for a beginner. So I'm only recommending this because I feel like it could be a huge time saver for a lot of creatives like myself. So first thing we're going to do is drop the image that we used into the timeline, just to give you an idea of how you usually edit a photo with the Lightroom sliders. So once you have it on the timeline there, look for Lightroom sliders in the Effects tab, and then drag over Basic Controls to start with. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of sliders that we're going to adjust. Another thing that you'd want to probably turn on is this video scope here. So the goal is to stay between 0 and 100 here, just to make sure that you're not overexposed or underexposed. So I'm just going to adjust all the sliders here and play around with it until I get the look that I like. Once I'm done that, I'm going to drag over camera calibration and then play around with that as well. You can adjust the tint, the saturation levels for the reds, greens, and blues. And the next one is for HSL, which is hue, saturation, and luminance. And you can control the colors for each of those, like what I'm doing here. So I'm trying to get the reds and the oranges up a little bit, and the greens and the yellows slightly down. So this is how it looks before and after we applied all the settings. So that's how I would usually edit it in Lightroom. But again, I'm not a professional photographer. I'm sure everyone's workflow is a little bit different, but it's similar to what I would do if I was using Lightroom. So now we're gonna do it with the video clips that I shot earlier as well, and show you guys the steps which will be exactly similar to what we just did now. So I placed 3 clips that I shot earlier that I'm going to play around with. And with this first one here, I'm going to adjust it again until I get that look that I want. And as you can see here, I have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, the whites and blacks that I can play around with and move around. So I like this plugin because it isolates each one individually, as compared to the Final Cut Pro one where everything's kind of just grouped together and changes it for you in a way more basic way. So now that I've added the HSL slider here, I'm going to play around with the greens and the oranges a little bit and the reds. Again, I want to bring down the greens and bring up the reds a little bit. So under saturation, that's where I'm changing the colors. What I did was add in a LUT as well, just to kind of finish it off. So I'm going to throw on one of the LUTs that I have here on my laptop and change the strength of it. This is how it looks before I graded everything and after I graded everything. Now I'm going to do it again for the second clip that I placed here. So I'm going to adjust exposure, contrast, the highlights, shadows down a little bit, and the blacks down a little bit. So I'm just adjusting it until I like how it looks and it just looks real natural. And for this one, I'm going to turn the greens down just a little bit higher just to make it pop a bit more. I want the yellows to be slightly lower so that it's not too overpowering. And then we're going to apply the same LUT that we used for the first clip onto this one here. Okay, so this is how it looks without and with the grading and LUTs added on. So this might not be a popular opinion, but I feel like the post-process workflow is a lot more time consuming when working with videos. Photographers, don't get pissed off. I'm not saying the editing process is easy work. I know it can still be very, very tedious, but I feel like with video, the workload is twice as much. There's audio to worry about, hours of footage to skim through, motion graphics to apply, gotta find music, cut, keyframe. There's just so much included when editing a video. But I would like to know what you guys think about it. Which process do you guys think is more tedious? So this is why I love plugins for Final Cut Pro 10 that make things easier for me. And this slider that Eric sent over is definitely one of them. So anything that will cut down editing time, I'm all for it. And don't forget, if you decide to become a member of PPA, use the link in the description down below so that you get $25 off your membership.